With the trade deadline just around the corner, I wanted to make my first video on this channel as a trade deadline preview. Kind of talk about what I think teams will do and what I think teams should do. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the video, starting off with the teams TSN reporter Frank Saravalli believes will be firm buyers. Starting off the list here with the Florida Panthers. Now before Aaron Ekblad's season-ending injury, the Florida Panthers were kind of a neutral team when it comes to buying or selling. However, with Aaron Ekblad now out of the lineup, it forces GM Bill Zito to step up and fill the void on the blue line. Among that though, there has also been some concern about their top 6 forwards. They currently have Mason Marchment on their top line, and I would assume that's where the concern stems from. For their blue line, I can see them going after a guy like Brandon Montour. He's a pending UFA, a right shot defenseman who can play on the power play, and he fits under their cap. Now obviously there is no replacement for Ekblad, especially with how good he was playing this season, but I believe Montour could be a good addition for the Florida Panthers. Now if they did want to go out and add to their forward core, I could see them going out and adding a guy like Alex Kerfoot, or even a guy like Ryan Dzingel. I'm not too confident in that though, because I believe the most pressing need for the Florida Panthers is the blue line, but Bill Zito is a guy who swings for the fences, so we will just have to wait and see. Next up here we have the Colorado Avalanche. There aren't many holes for GM Joe Sakic to fill on this roster. They've battled injuries all year, and the sense league-wide is Colorado would like to add at least one insurance piece for Philip Grubauer in goal, plus a little more muscle on the back end. I'm going to go back to Florida for the Avs' need on goaltending. After Florida Panthers signed prospect goalie Spencer Knight to his ELC, they have been listening to trade offers on Chris Driedger. Driedger has played 17 games and is at a .931 save percentage with a 2.05 goals against. I really don't understand why Florida is willing to part with a guy like that. I mean, he is a pending UFA, and the Panthers are pretty locked in with Bobrovsky. Colorado also does have a pretty good prospect pool. A guy like Connor Timmins could be going the other way for Driedger. A more likely scenario is they go out and get a guy like Jonathan Bernier or James Reimer. Both of them have been good goalies this season, and they are the definition of insurance in net. If they did want to go out and get more muscle on the back end, I could see a guy like Jamie Alexiak being a fit. He is a 6'7", 255-pound, solid 28-year-old defenseman. He is also only making $2.14 million against the cap. I feel like this could be a great addition for Colorado if they are looking for that big, strong defenseman. Next on the list, we have the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina's GM Don Waddell went on record by saying his wish list includes a right shot defenseman with term on his contract and a depth forward. I don't quite understand a need for the right shot defenseman. I honestly think Carolina has one of the best defensive cores in the league. Guys that fit their wish list include two Flames defensemen by the name of Rasmus Andersson and Chris Tanev. Rasmus Andersson being more of a puck-moving offensive defenseman, and Chris Tanev being more of a defensive defenseman. Personally, I think they go after Rasmus Andersson. He is a 23-year-old right-shot defenseman. He has 5 years left on his deal, making $4.5 million per season. And Calgary and Carolina have made trades in the past before, the famous one being Dougie Hamilton, of course. I honestly think Rasmus Andersson is the guy that fits the bill in Carolina. If they wanted to go out and add a depth forward, it's definitely more understandable. Jesper Fast is currently playing on their first line because Tara Vinen remains sidelined with an injury. I think that there are tons of guys they could go after. To name some, Bobby Ryan, Tanner Pearson, Marcus Sorensen, Sam Bennett, Alex Kerfoot, and even a guy like Jake DeBrusk. For me, I think they go after a guy like Sam Bennett. I think he's a guy who could really benefit from a change of scenery. I do believe Bennett will play better in Carolina than how he's been performing with Calgary so far. Next on the list is the New York Islanders. Lou Lamoriello has something not a lot of other teams have, and that is cap space. Of course, with that cap space, he will need to address the void that was created when Captain Anders Lee sustained a torn ACL. The Islanders have cap space and need a scoring forward. Makes sense to go out and get the biggest forward on the market, which is Taylor Hall. I personally can't see it though. Lou Lamoriello seems to desire a guy with more character and leadership. Enter Kyle Palmieri. Kyle Palmieri is an outstanding scoring forward who could fill that void. He has been reported to be a leader and a real character guy in the locker room. To me, I think Kyle Palmieri is the guy there. I could see Nick Foligno being the guy there too, but I'm not so sure Columbus wants to part ways with their captain. Now, Kyle Palmieri has already been held out of a game to manage the asset and make sure he doesn't get hurt, so I can only assume a trade with him is coming very soon. Next up here is the Winnipeg Jets. I would be shocked if the deadline passed and the Jets did not add to their blue line. The reports are that Winnipeg would prefer a rental defenseman with a bit of size and maybe a bit of bite. There are two ways Winnipeg could go here. They could just get a solid defenseman in David Savard, or they could go size and bite with a guy like Nikita Zadorov. Zadorov is 6'6", 235 pounds. The main consensus on this team is they're going to go all out and swing for the fences. For me, however, I'm going to say they do something more low-key. I think a guy like Dmitry Kulikov makes a lot of sense. He's been there before. He knows the systems, he knows the guys in the room, it would be a great fit. He definitely comes at a lower price, and I honestly think that's important. If the Jets swing for the fences, Ville Heinola will most likely need to be involved in that deal, and I don't think Winnipeg wants to trade Heinola, and they shouldn't. He is a stud prospect defenseman, and I'd imagine he's pretty close to untradeable. So targeting a lower-end guy like Dmitry Kulikov eliminates the threat of having to give up Ville Heinola in a trade. And last on the list, the team that Frank Seravalli considers the biggest buyers, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Kyle Dubas has not been shy about his willingness to make a deal. The Leafs are willing to trade a top prospect and more to land their targeted fit at forward. The preference is for a versatile left winger who can play all over the lineup. Cal Palmieri, Nick Foligno, and even Tanner Pearson would make sense. I look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and I see a team that is almost there. I can see the need for a forward. You know how much trust you have in a guy like Alex Galchenyuk in your top 6 in the playoffs. Sure, he's playing great right now, but do you bank on him keeping that up? Their D-core looks good, but they are one injury away from playing a guy like Martin Marincin or even Rasmus Sandin. And Jack Campbell has been outstanding, but let's not forget, he isn't healthy. The Maple Leafs' initial starter and backup are both injured, so they basically do not have a healthy goalie for the playoffs. If I had to rank level of importance per position, I'd say the most pressing need is a goaltender, second, a depth defenseman, and third, a forward. So for the goalies, there's 3 guys that stick out to me. Those guys are James Reimer, David Rittich, and Linus Ullmark. Now, I personally think it'd be so cool to see James Reimer back in Toronto, but I think Ullmark is the better option. Linus Ullmark has played 16 games with the Buffalo Sabres and has a .921 save percentage and a 2.44 goals against. And on the Buffalo Sabres, that is pretty impressive. There is no doubt that he has been one of the best Sabres this season, and he only makes $2.6 million and is a pending UFA. David Rittich is also another option, but I personally believe that Linus Ullmark is the better one. As a depth defenseman, I actually think a guy like Mike Riley could be a good add. He's a 27-year-old pending UFA that makes $1.5 million against the cap, and he has been surprisingly good defensively for the Ottawa Senators this season. And I think that would be a good depth defenseman for insurance purposes. Kyle Dubas does like his Sioux Greyhounds though, and an ex-Greyhound is Colin Miller, who could also be an option. Finally, in terms of adding a forward, I'm gonna throw a name out there that hasn't been talked about a lot. I think a guy like Adrian Kempe could work out in Toronto. Kempe has been heavily scouted by the Toronto Maple Leafs at 6'2" and 200 pounds. He would come with a $2 million cap hit this year and next year before entering restricted free agency. Adrian Kempe could be the versatile forward that the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for to round out their forward depth. Now to quickly go over the teams that Frank Seravalli classifies as soft buyers. The Edmonton Oilers are looking for a right shot depth center. That sounds to me like Luke Glendening. One of the best defensive centers in the league, and he does in fact shoot right. Derek Ryan also fits the mold. The Montreal Canadiens are looking for defensive depth. Alex Goligoski, Nikita Zadorov, or even go out and get Eric's brother Mark Stahl for defensive depth. All 3 of those would be great options. Pittsburgh is looking for a depth center. Again, Luke Glendening fits that mold. Scott Lawton could also be an option there, or Alex Kerfoot could be a fit in Pittsburgh. Washington is looking for a more experienced goaltender. I don't really see a good option out there for Washington, but maybe they go to Toronto and check in on Freddie Anderson, or even they go to Arizona and check in on Darcy Kemper. The best option for experienced goaltending on the market right now is Devin Dubnyk, and I'm not too sure that's even a good option. Tampa Bay is looking for defensive depth. I feel like a guy like Josh Manson or even Ryan Murray would fit on that blue line for Tampa, so that's probably who I would go after. The Boston Bruins are looking for a top 6 winger or defensive muscle. Well, for the top 6 winger, they've been heavily linked to Taylor Hall, so I'm going to say him. And if you're looking for a defensive muscle, that's basically the definition of Nikita Zadorov. And finally, the Vegas Golden Knights are looking for bottom 6 scoring. I feel like a guy like Bobby Ryan would be a good fit there, or even a guy like Tanner Pearson. Basically, any forward on the market right now would help out Vegas' bottom 6 scoring situation. And that is going to do it for this video. That is my trade deadline preview. If I'm being realistic here, we would be lucky to see even one trade of substance develop, as the prices for players are high and the salary cap is flat. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen. If you guys enjoyed the video and you would like to see more videos from me, be sure to leave the video a like. That is the best way you can show your support. And most importantly, if this is the first time you're checking out my channel and you want more NHL content, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Stay safe, everyone.